Hello, welcome to this session on physical science. In this one, we're going to be talking about section 2.4, fuel combustion. And this is a little bit different than our other videos. And most of them, I focus a lot on the practice problems and the math, but there actually are no practice problems with math for this section. So if you don't like math, hooray. Um, but it's going to make the video a little different. So there is already a review video that should be on your student portal that goes over a lot of stuff in this section. So I don't want to repeat all of that. So what we're just going to focus on is the 4 stages of the internal combustion engine, because I know there's a lot of test questions that focus on that. Okay, so we have 3 types of internal combustion engines that are focused on in your text. You've got the gasoline engine, diesel engine, and turbojet. So now we're just going to kind of focus on the gasoline engine. All 3 of these are internal combustion, which means that they burn a fuel and air mixture inside of the engine. So the basic parts of this, and this is simplified. Everything we're talking about here is just kind of to focus on the general idea. There's a lot of other parts that aren't shown. We're not focusing on the whole process of making a car run just on the internal combustion part of it. So if you're a person that's really into cars and mechanics, you might know most of this already and you might know much more, and that's fine. We're just kind of focusing on this because of it's where the physics and the chemistry happens. So the cylinder is a hollow metal tube in the engine, and the piston is a metal can that moves up and down within the cylinder. The combustion chamber is above the piston. It's where the air and fuel mixture is burned. So this is where the internal combustion happens. The spark plug ignites the fuel in a gasoline engine that doesn't exist in a diesel engine. And combustion forces the piston down quickly, which moves a part called the crankshaft. So there's 4 stages of engine operation. You've got intake, compression, power, and exhaust. We're just going to go over those 4. So in the intake stage, the piston is near the top of the cylinder. The intake valve is open and the exhaust valve is closed. The piston moves downward a little bit, kind of creating a vacuum, and that draws vaporized gasoline and air through the intake valve. Okay, so that's why it's called the intake stage. The only thing that's really happening is the fuel is coming into the combustion chamber. Then you have the compression stage, where the piston is still near the top of the cylinder. Remember, it moved down a little bit. Both valves are now closed, trapping the air and fuel. And the piston rises, squishing the air and fuel in the combustion chamber. Okay, so it's really compressing that inside of it. And that allows the power stage to happen, where the spark plug zaps that air and fuel mixture, causing it to ignite. And when the fuel ignites, it explodes outward in all directions. So you've got a vaporized gas, you're lighting it on fire, it's going to expand with a crazy amount of force really suddenly. And our valves are closed, so the burning gases can't escape. So the only thing they could do is push on the piston, and they shove the piston downward. And the piston moves the crankshaft, which indirectly turns the wheels through some other parts. And then the last stage is the exhaust stage. So you've burned those gases, there's exhaust that needs to leave so that the whole thing can reset. So the exhaust valve opens, the piston moves back up the cylinder, pushes all the exhaust out, and the cycle is ready to begin again. So those are the 4 basic stages. You'll need to know what happens in each one, where the piston is, which valves are open and closed. Those are all things you could be asked about this. And some just general ideas. We looked at 1 cylinder at a time, but most engines have 6 or 8 cylinders going through the cycle at once. And they're all timed slightly differently, so that basically At any moment in time, one of them is going through the power stage. So it is keeping a constant level of power to move your vehicle forward smoothly. And note that the four stages match up the four strokes in a four-stroke engine like you would find in a car. So you have the intake, compression, combustion, and exhaust. That is different than a two-stroke engine, which accomplishes everything in two strokes. So the piston doesn't move up and down twice, it moves up and down once. Okay, so one all the way down, which is the intake and combustion and exhaust, and one up, which is the compression. Diesel engine, same general idea, but there's no spark plug ignition. There's a lot of pressure due to the compression part of it, and there's a glow plug there, which makes it really hot. So because it's hotter than the fuel's ignition point and under a lot of pressure, it immediately ignites on its own without the need of a spark. And just real quick, it ends this reading with a gas turbine, which has compressed air and fuel being ignited, and this increases the pressure, and the gaseous products are forced to the outer combustion chamber, where they're actually cooled down a little bit with some air being mixed in. And that pressurized air and gases spin the turbine, which drives the power generator. So it's called a gas turbine because the fuel is burned, gaseous fuel, vaporized fuel is burned, but it's turning a turbine, and that's what powers the generator to make it all run. So that was just a quick review of the internal combustion engine. Definitely watch the longer review video that's on your student portal, and if you have any questions about this section, don't hesitate to contact your instructor.